Be updating you on these 14 construction workers. Some of them, we understand, are billed to be discharged, all things being called by the end of day today. They're responding to treatment. We're keeping an eye on that. We'll be updating here on Ghana Tonight on 3news.com as well. And tomorrow morning, so stay with us here on TV3 and on 3FM 92.7. We're coming up next here on Ghana Tonight. Former Ghana Airports Company Limited board chair Paul Adom-Otchere battles the special prosecutor in court over an order to declare his assets. Why is he fighting this? Well, we'll tell you, because on the face of it, I mean, all public officers within a particular category, as has been stipulated in the Constitution, are expected to declare their assets before taking office and then after they exit office as well. So it is one that really raises questions as to exactly what is being fought. And that's what we're going to get the details of right now, because former Ghana Airports Company, that's a board chair, Paul Adom-Otchere, has filed an application at the High Court, in fact, seeking to quash a directive by the Office of Special Prosecutor, the OSP, ordering him to declare his property and income. Now, his lawyers, led by former Attorney General Godfrey Adom, argue that the directive issued on August 4, 2025 is unlawful, violates the Office of the Special Prosecutors Act 2017 and its regulations, and constitutes an abuse of office. So what's more, and what's the background to this? Denis Wedam Esquire is with me right now. Denis, it's always good to have you on matters like this.
Always a pleasure being here, Alfred.
You know, when Paul Adom-Otchere was invited by the special prosecutor, one of the things, the sticky points during that conversation was his declaration that he did not own a house.
He didn't own a landed property, or he has no landed property to his name.
Which became a matter of conversation.
Yes.
And so the OSP following that is asking him to do what?
Yes, so there's more to it than just that invitation and he being detained for a day and released, and that talk about he not having any landed property to his name. Apparently, there was a lot more happening behind the scenes after his release, and that's I'll show you shortly. Before we even get to some of the reliefs that he's seeking from the High Court in respect of this suit, let's backtrack a bit to understand how it all culminated in this particular suit, because this suit is grounded on some events that preceded the instant action. So we go back to August 4. Now, mind you, it was towards the end of July that the OSP invited Paul Adom-Otchere in respect of some investigations the OSP is carrying on in relation to corruption and corruption-related offenses. That has to do with that Evertex logistics company, which is alleged to have some links with SML and all that.
Yes.
And they wanted to investigate, and in that regard, the former board chair, together with the managing director of the airports, the Ghana Airport Company Limited, were subjects of investigation, or suspect, if you like. Now, there was some correspondence between the Office of the Special Prosecutor and then Paul Adom-Otchere in respect of that particular matter. The first one occurred on August 4, 2025, and which was a notice to declare property and income. That was a letter from the OSP to Paul Adom-Otchere. And the content of that letter, or the summary of it, was to the effect that the OSP had directed Paul to declare property and income within 30 days. It didn't end there. The OSP warned that failure to do so would amount to an offense. An offense which is not mentioned. And also that any undeclared asset would be liable to confiscation. That is to say, declare your income and then your property. If there are any other things that are in your name which you do not declare, then those will become liable to confiscation.
I see.
Then the other leg of it is that if you fail to do so, it is an offense. So take note of that. Two things. Now, lawyers...
So, yes, declare what is in your name.
Yes.
As what you own.
Yes.
And then your income.
Yes.
Is it?
If you don't do so...
in his current status, or while he was bought here?
No, in his current status.
Of his current income, what he earns.
and what you own.
What he owns. And
Now,
if he doesn't
it
declare
says that
any...
if you don't do that, if you fail to comply within 30 days, it is an offense. And that if there's anything that you fail to declare, which we find that it is in your name, then that will become liable to confiscation.
So how about if there's a beneficial owner's name?
Let's move forward. You get the clearer picture as we progress.
Fantastic.
Now, on August 25, Paul, through his lawyers, write back to the OSP in respect of this particular letter. The content and the summary of it is that they were not too enthused about the letter because, in their view, it was a violation of the rights of Paul. It was even unlawful. It was not in consonance with the very laws that set up the office of the OSP. So what did they do? They challenged the legality of the OSP's directive. And in their view, when the OSP said failure to declare would amount to an offense, they said that amount to a threat. They also described that as being unlawful and that it is in excess of the powers that set up the OSP. What they did finally was to request that the letter be withdrawn or there should be some reconsideration of the directive. So this was the response of Paul through his lawyers. Fast forward, September 3, 2025, OSP responds to the letter from Paul's lawyers. And in that letter, OSP insists that the directive must be complied with. And that the notice was verbatim reproduction of statutory provisions and that Paul was obliged to comply. In other words, the OSP was saying that whatever was contained in that first letter requesting him to declare his income and property was just a reproduction of what the law says.
Right.
Except to say that the OSP in that letter did not point out to the specific provision of the law that was produced verbatim as is indicated there. Because
you see, one of the contentions of Paul Adom-Otchere's lawyers is that this demand violates the OSP's own law.
Yes.
And the OSP is responding to that essentially?
So let's take a look at the exact wording of the OSP's letter or letters to Paul. This is the first letter. Notice to declare property and income. It says, you are directed to declare, as per the attached notice and forms, your property and income to the office of the Special Prosecutor, OSP. Take note that you commit an offense if you fail to return the completed forms to the OSP within 30 days of your receipt of the notice, and if you intentionally or negligently fail to disclose any information. Further, take notice that any property or income you fail to declare is liable to confiscation to the Republic. That was the first letter. So when Paul's lawyers raised concerns about the legality of it, and also asking that it be withdrawn and then also reconsidered, OSP's second response.
This is on the 25th of August, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I refer to your... So this was in response to a letter that Paul's lawyers wrote on the 25th. I refer to your communication dated 25th August 2025. You would reckon that the forms and notice served on your client are a verbatim reproduction of statutory provisions without any attempt at superimposition of opinion by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Your client is required to comply with the directive in the notice. Please accept the compliments of the highest consideration. So the OSP is simply insisting that I am acting within law and that the forms I have given you are forms that are taken from the law. So kindly comply. Let's continue with the timelines and see what happened next.
Right.
So Paul, through his lawyers, sent a letter, and that letter was accompanied by the submission of the declaration forms. Now, the content of that simply is that the forms were submitted, that is, the property and the income declarations, and that it was done under protests, reiterating that the OSP's directive was unlawful and an abuse of power.
And it was done under protest?
It was done. However, it was done under protests. Now, these are the facts that set or that culminated into the instant suit. That having raised issues already about the legality of this and also pointing out to possible abuse of the OSP's powers, he proceeds to instruct his lawyers to institute an action asking for specific reliefs from the court. That one, the court should make a declaration that the special prosecutor's directive for him to declare property and income is unlawful and abuse of power. So now you see where he's coming from.
Exactly.
Based on what we have seen, now he says that that directive should be declared unlawful and an abuse of power. The second is that he wants an order of certiorari to quash that directive for violating due process and provisions of the OSP Act and its regulations, simply saying that this particular move is not in consonance with the OSP's laws. Mm-hmm. There's a third one, wanting the court to make a declaration that the special prosecutor's threat of legal action, that's why OSP says that we fail to do is an offense, mm-hmm. and that a threat of confiscation and detention are unlawful and a violation of the applicant's right. Applicant here refers to Paul. Mm. And then finally, he wants an order restraining the OSP or the special prosecutor from detaining or violating the applicant's rights, Paul's rights, for refusing to comply with the unlawful directive of 4th August. So he wants declarations made to the effect that there's a violation of his rights, that the act itself is unlawful. Mm-hmm. He wants that the process be quashed, and also he wants the OSP to be prohibited from carrying out the threats and the things that the OSP said he's actually going to do. I
see. The threat of what? So that, I mean, now he says he's complied. So I said, what's that to mean is he
complied under protests.
Yes. But then he supplied the information the OSP asked for?
Well, we are not too sure of. What he did was to submit the forms. As to whether the forms were done the way they are supposed to be done, he says that he has done so under protest.
Okay. Does that also then shield him of whether or not the information in there is accurate or otherwise? Because the OSP says if you don't declare all the property in your name, if it is found out that there's more that you own in your name that is not on the said form, it will be confiscated to the state.
Yes.
And that's the threat that he is
seeking to stop. Else, if it turns out, just for purposes of analysis, that the OSP receives the forms and then there are some things which have not been declared and the OSP is of the view that those things are for him and they make any attempt to confiscate, the court should intervene to stop that process altogether. In fact, they did indicate that the process for confiscation in the law is not one that can be done at the stage of investigation. Mm-hmm. So they actually point out what, in their view, the law is and how the OSP is not following the law. Now, this suit was brought to the attention of the public by the OSP, who had posted on social media as to the pendency of this suit. Paul also responded to that notice. Mm-hmm. And this is what you have here. Paul says that the attention of Paul Adom-Otchere has been drawn to reports which suggest that he seeks to institute a legal action to prevent the OSP from having access to information on his assets through an asset declaration form issued by the OSP. Now, for avoidance of doubts, Mr. Adom-Otchere already filled the forms requested by the OSP and submitted same. So this part, Alfred, answers the question of whether he filled the forms and submitted or not. He says he has done so on the 23rd of October 2025. That he submitted a letter of protest dated the same day, 23rd of October 2025, and attached same to the form, indicating concern about the process. And that as a matter of record, the OSP's asset declaration forms have been completed and submitted to the OSP on the 23rd of October 2025, and that he, Paul, remains committed to assisting the OSP to bring finality to the issues in question, and that the purpose of the legal action, the one we just looked at, is to settle the law and procedure on the matter. So these are the matters we are dealing with, Alfred.
Very interesting matters at play, and also following on what Paul Adom-Otchere himself has put out there as well, responding to this OSP's earlier release,
yes,
which we've gone through quite copiously on their Facebook page. What it brings to the fore is that we already know the declaration of Paul Adom-Otchere when it comes to his ownership of landed property. He says he doesn't have any landed property in his name.
Well, he reiterates that in his affidavit in support. And what that means is that when you make an affidavit in support, those are sworn statements. You actually make them under oath.
Yes.
So he has actually reiterated the fact that he does not have any property in his name.
And the OSP...
I mean, landed property.
Landed property.
Yes.
And the OSP's forms is inquiring of him to state whether there's any property or anything in his name, income.
Yes.
So if there's any information contrary to that statement he made under oath, what's the position of the law on this?
That is what Paul is trying to stop. That the OSP does not even have the power at this stage to do whatever he's doing. And that, however, he has complied with what the OSP wants him to do. But he's protesting that, and he wants the law to settle as to whether he, as Paul, in his capacity as a former board chair of the Ghana Airports Company Limited, is one who can be a subject of such a procedure. So those are matters that the court will settle in the coming days. However, we don't see the return date on the face of the application. That means it's yet to be determined, and we'll follow that issue quite keenly to bring to our viewers.
Absolutely. You're an officer of the court, so it's one that I know for sure that we'll keep an eye on. Thank you, Denis Wedam and